thing, the hardest thing I ever had to overcome, the death of a teammate. Going into my junior year at Charleston Southern, I was in college. We had a receiver by the name of Eddie Gadsden. He was a walk-on. He came in with me our freshman year as a walk-on. You could tell right away the kid was legit. He started just like I did. I think like the third game of the year, me and him were starting. He was poised for a breakout year his freshman year, and then he had an injury, so he was out. He played 3 or 4 games. He was immediately put on scholarship because he deserved it. So going into our sophomore year, that's when we started to turn the corner. Like me personally, we started winning games. I was all conference. He was all conference. So that was a fun year. So going into our junior year, we had high hopes, right? We had high expectations for me, for him, for the team. And then in June of 2005, he passed away in a car accident. Yeah, so 2005, 18 years ago, right? 18 years ago. He was right around 2021. So that was tragic. That was the first time I dealt with the loss of somebody like that so close to me. It greatly affected our team. How do you deal with that? We're 19, 20, 21 years old at the time. So it was difficult because we started very slow that year. We had high hopes, right? I think we started 0-2. Something, it was bad. We got blown out. I remember it vividly. We played Presbyterian College. They came down to Charleston and just, whooped us. It was 42-0. It was really bad. And we showed up to practice that Monday. Normally on Monday in college, we'd be in helmets only, running some gassers and throwing the ball around. We went full gear and scrimmaged. Soon after that, we found a way to band together as a team and just said, hey, you know what? We're going to be unified. We're going to play for Eddie. That was kind of our, just our motto, so to speak, moving forward. And then after a 2-4 start, we won 14 games. We talked about that was the year we beat Coastal Carolina. Quick story about that too. So when we won the game in double overtime, I talked about Jerome Simpson, running out of bounds, and we beat him in double overtime. We scored a touchdown first in double overtime. They had the ball, Tyler Thigpen, Jerome Simpson, 4th down and 7 or something in double overtime. Threw a slant pass, the ball was batted down. We win that game. When they had the ball was on the 21-yard line, right? Eddie wore number 21. So all these things, man, it was like the stars aligned to provide at least a little bit of healing, not only for us, but Eddie's dad was there. Eddie's mom was there. How do you deal with the loss of a son? But through the game of football, through that 2005 championship season, there was some healing that was done with what we were able to accomplish for him. So definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to go through as a player, also the most rewarding. Wish we could bring Eddie back, but it was a neat process to go through, to grow.
Yep. So what was the hardest thing you had to go through?
Yeah, the hardest thing I've ever had to go through as a coach was my second year as a head coach. My first year as a head coach, I took over East River High School in Orlando, Florida. So I'd been in Orlando for 5 years as a coordinator, got my first head job. They had been not very good, to be honest with you. I think they had won like 4 games in 4 years, So it was probably a good first head job in the sense that there was nowhere to go but up. I came in and hired a great staff. We whipped them into shape, had a great year. We went 6-5 and made the playoffs. So that was a big turnaround. And then very quickly, I had other opportunities come my way. And one of them was to move back to my home state and be the head coach at AC Flora High School. AC Flora was vastly different in the sense that they had been pretty good before. They had had some good years. The 2 previous coaches before me had been at Florida for 4 years and won enough and gone on to get big-time jobs in the state of South Carolina. So it wasn't like I was coming in to a situation where we were bottom dwellers. The mistake I made was thinking after only 1 year of being a head coach, one pretty good year, that I had it all figured out and that I knew it all. And so I came in, made a lot of mistakes. It was a vastly different environment. having been coaching in Orlando for 6 years and then moving back to South Carolina, football's football, but the culture and the dynamics and the politics and the community is so much different. So I was used to doing things a certain way, and I thought I could take that blueprint and duplicate that success in year 2. And so we lost every game that year with 0-10. And it was, looking back on it, it was the hardest thing I ever had to go through as I was going through it. It was extremely difficult. It was the best thing that ever happened to me as a young head coach, because in getting my ass whipped, to be honest with you, I really had to do a lot of self-reflection on, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I grow? What do I need to change? And it was really built out of desperation is not the right word, but put it like this. It was a climate where had I not won in year 2, I would have got fired, right? My back was against the wall. I had guys, I had players transfer out that weren't bought in. I had coaches that weren't bought in that stabbed me in the back. So really, I really had to hunker down and say, okay, what are the most important things for me to do as a head coach? I learned very quickly it's the people you surround yourself with. I'll never, ever argue anything as a head coach. The most important thing is your staff. And I learned that going through that process. So we go 0-10. We start my second year 0-2. So on a 12-game losing streak, my first 12 games. We lose all 12, right? And then we won 9 games in a row. Won 9 games in a row, which at the time was the longest winning streak in the history of that school. We won our district championship. Lost a heartbreaker in the second round, like by 2 points in the final minute. But I remember walking off that field, like not being disappointed at all, because I know that I left it all on the field that entire year. The players, like we literally gave everything we had the whole year. And that game, it just wasn't in the cards for us to keep going. So that was difficult, but I learned a lot. And then after that year, for family reasons, this is when I moved down to Jacksonville, 2019, to be the head coach at Nice. The freshman, my first year at AC4, those guys that went 0-10, we were 9-2 or 9-3 that year. 2 years later, when they were seniors, won the state championship in 2020. And so I knew those guys had it in them and had a bright future. So that was neat to see that as well, even though I wasn't a coach, just to be able to say, you know what, like we played a small part of that, going through tough times, building it up. And then the guy that came in, Dustin Curtis, the head coach after me, did a phenomenal job of that staff too. So learned a lot the 2 years I was at up in Columbia, South Carolina. Belief. First and foremost, you have to get the players to believe they belong on the field with whoever they're playing against. And really, I guess another word to describe it would be mentality, or even culture. Mindset, I think, is the biggest thing. Everybody lifts, everybody runs, everybody practices. Some programs do it more efficiently than others, right? But when the kids believe that they can beat anybody, regardless of what they've been through before, what they might be going through in a moment, if you have them bought into you as a head coach, your coaching staff, your culture, and your system, then in my opinion, if you stay at it and you're consistent, it's only a matter of time.